I'm Lisa Louise Cook of the Genealogy Gems podcast, and I'm here again at the Family History Expo in Salt Lake City, and I have with me a great genealogist, Christine Sweet. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Glad to have you here.
Thank
I
you.
saw you listed on the syllabus and that you were teaching several classes. Tell us what you're teaching here.
This morning was a class on sourcing, source citations, where's the Tylenol? And this afternoon it's going to be on formulating a research plan.
Great. Those are such key things that we all have to keep in mind, and I know that there are a lot of people new to genealogy, and source citation isn't necessarily the very first thing that they think about. Tell me, do you get people convinced in your class by the time they leave? Are they committed to citing their sources?
Well, I had about 40 people in the class this morning, and since it was an 8 o'clock class before the exhibit hall opened, I was so impressed.
That was a good showing. Wow.
Yeah, it was. I brought a book. I thought, I'm going to be alone here. Me, my coffee, and a Janet Ivanovich novel. Such was not the case.
Yeah.
No, basically source citations are the one thing that nobody wants to do. That and report writing. But, everybody wants to do the research, nobody wants to cite the source. So what I hope I imparted this morning was to take some of the fear out of it. Because when I started, the book was yay big, and now the book is yay big. So, it does get a little nerve-wracking. But.
Well, and citing our sources isn't just for the benefit of other researchers. It's really for our own benefit because it is so easy to duplicate hard-won work that you forgot you did or that you didn't record, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you never know what the future holds. I never realized when I started, oh my gosh, it'll be like 29 years ago, doing research that I would ever become certified. I thought, I'm not going to do that. It's too much work. But then one day, lo and behold, I thought, I think I want to do that. And by the time, I had to almost redo everything I had done. Really? Because I had nothing. It was more fun to do the research than
And that's
to
one of
write.
the big emphasis, isn't it, in the coursework that you do and as you prepare and for your accreditation is that they really go back to the core of source citation.
Yes.
Right? And,
Yes.
That's an interesting point, something we could talk about, is that there are a lot of people who have been researching for quite some time. And maybe they have been citing sources, but what was the process like when you finally decided to get your certification?
It took me 4.5 years.
Really?
Yeah. And yes, and it was quite an endeavor. It was an excellent way to kind of vet myself against, I won't call it the top because obviously there's certification through BCG, there's accreditation, there's other things, and, I don't want to lump one over the other. But, it pays to be prepared. And, my background is actually in law. Mm-hmm. And like when you're citing cases or you're writing briefs for the court, the judge doesn't care what you want to do or how you want to do it. They want what they want. And it's the same thing with certification. And I dragged every one of those documents into the bright sun, kicking and screaming, trying to cite sources. I had to think over 500 by the time I was done.
Wow.
And it was ugly, but I'm so glad I did it, and it's made me a better researcher.
It seems like it also kind of maybe ensures the possibility that your research could be further down the road. Obviously, we want it to be taken by our descendants and appreciated and hung on to. And, there's nothing worse than finding a wonderful history book and you start researching and you go, oh my gosh, this is my family, this is my tree. Where did all this come from? And just when the sources are cited, then the next researcher can take it and take it further.
Right, because invariably it's going to be that Irish birth certificate that you have been looking for, and you think, yeehaw, here it is, I found it, and then you look down, there is not a source citation to be found. So, you may as well have pulled it out of your head for all that means. And I know people kind of get annoyed when I say that, but, the reality is you really need to figure out where you got it from. Yeah. Otherwise, you're kind of out of luck. And, for your own personal use, nobody really cares. But for purposes of any kind of credentialing or any kind of publication, most editors and all the judges in any accreditation place or certification place are going to want it the way they want it.
How do you see it in terms of the fact that we're doing so much connecting online? We're posting our family trees, we're connecting with other researchers, and it would seem to me that this is becoming more of an issue. That somebody was telling me that their dear old great-grandmother, who was born and raised and never traveled more than 50 miles from her town in Arkansas, was shown as living or born in Bavaria, and that somebody had gotten a hold of something, or they had written it as Alaska because they'd gotten the letter code wrong. And the fact that there were no sources on the trees that were, posted online was very frustrating.
Yeah. Well, like anything, and part of the course that I'm teaching at 1 is on formulating a research plan. And one of the things that I always say is, if you're looking for a local book, local history, a compiled genealogy, methodology books, those are great. Those are good. Bibliographies are better, smaller group of sources, broader base of information. But like anything, once you put it into print, it's almost immediately out of date. Online sources always happen to be, my favorite for the clues that they can yield, but I always look at it, with a skeptical eye. Fortunately, in Evidence Explained, which is Elizabeth Shown Mill's book, I'm a big proponent of hers if you haven't figured that out. I know there are separate camps, this happens to be mine. But she has done a lot, both in the book on web resources, and she has like a 2-page laminated little folder thing. But it's tough to cite things like that, and unless they're from something reliable, and reliable not that the information is correct, but that they're not going to disappear.
Right.
Like the LDS Church, probably not a good chance that website's going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
Ancestry, although in the beginning I remember people saying, they're not going to last very long, yet here we are.
It's still there.
The HistGen back in Boston and the HGS, places like that where you really feel like maybe there's a shot that, the information is at least going to be there, it's going to be reliable insofar as providing clues, unless it's sourced.
Sounds like fascinating work. Thanks so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
Right.